Hello everyone, today I want to talk about how, if it weren't for the United States, China might never have realized it could become so powerful. Also, Ford's CEO went and bought 100 Chinese cars, and American companies are taking them apart to study them. Swiss media say that the US has underestimated China's technology. Right now, there are still many US lawmakers who think America is way ahead of China, and they're doing everything they can to stop China from copying American technology. But what they don't realize is that a lot of American companies are now copying Chinese technology. Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford Motor Company, recently talked about his competition with Chinese car makers. He said that the fact that 70% of the world's electric vehicles are made in China makes him feel ashamed by comparison. He pointed out that China has the technology the US needs, and that America should be more humble, recognize China's strengths, and learn from them. Farley recently said at the Aspen Ideas Festival that he has been to China 6 or 7 times in the past year. He mentioned that the in-car technology of Chinese electric vehicles is extremely advanced, with features like using AI to listen to music or shop, all available in the car, allowing people to enjoy a digital lifestyle without even needing to connect their phones. He said that's not all, the cost and quality of their cars are better than any Western cars he has ever seen. He said that the United States is engaged in global competition with China, and it's not limited to just the electric vehicle sector. If the US loses this competition, Ford will have no place to stand. Farley also spoke passionately about the details of his visits to China. He said that he brought the entire Ford leadership team, insisting that not a single person could be left behind or miss out on going to China. First, what they did in China was test drive the latest 100 cars in China. These cars were from different manufacturers, and they tried to drive as many as possible. Then, they picked 4 or 5 of their favorites and shipped them back to Detroit by plane. Once they arrived, they completely disassembled these 50 cars, and after taking them apart, they reassembled them to understand the technical details inside. Farley said that people don't realize China possesses the intellectual property that the United States needs. He believes that the United States, as a nation, needs to be more humble. China is indeed doing a great job. He said that the US needs to recognize what China excels at and learn from them. When the host mentioned that there is a phenomenon of demonizing China in current American politics, Farley responded that he had already told delegations in Washington that the US needs to understand that China is doing very well in certain fields, and that it is necessary to learn from them. He emphasized that the US should approach cooperation with Chinese companies with an open mind, for example in the field of batteries, where Chinese companies have invested many years and have a first-mover advantage. Farley's view coincides with that of a foreign media outlet. In April, the mainstream media outlet Neue Zürcher Zeitung published a commentary stating that the United States has completely underestimated China's technological innovation capabilities. The author of the article, Mark Greven, is a professor of innovation management at IMD Business School in Lausanne, Switzerland. Greven said that in recent years, the technological landscape between China and the West has reversed. From drones to live-stream e-commerce to artificial intelligence, China often leads the West in many areas. The US restrictions have not been able to curb China's momentum of development. Companies like ByteDance, DJI, and BYD, these Chinese firms are setting global standards for innovation, and China has, in fact, become the world's leader in innovation. The article states that China's market-driven, large-scale application innovation model, combined with state-prioritized policies, is rapidly making it a global technology leader. Meanwhile, the US is still stuck on the traditional path of theoretical innovation and has failed to truly recognize China's rise, which could result in losing its technological leadership. Greven noted that BYD's executive vice president, Li Ao, said in an interview with British media that BYD is committed to working together with its competitor Tesla to drive industry transformation and replace gasoline vehicles. At the time, Li Ao said that the common enemy of BYD and Tesla is the gasoline car. We need to work together to bring about change in the industry. He said that despite intensifying trade frictions between China and Europe, and China and the US, China is still willing to share electric vehicle and autonomous driving technology with foreign companies. Greven commented that, in fact, China has already become a global leader in innovation. He said that the model launched by Chinese AI company DeepSeek shocked the world, achieving the same efficiency as its American rival OpenAI but at a much lower cost and using less advanced chips. DeepSeek is just the latest example in a series of breakthroughs from China that the US did not anticipate. The U.S. strategy of trying to contain the core of Chinese technology by restricting the export of advanced chips has proven ineffective. Companies like ByteDance, DJI, and BYD from China are now innovatively setting the standards. ByteDance developed the social media platform TikTok, whose AI-driven content recommendation technology has already surpassed Facebook and Google. The platform's algorithm is so advanced that it is difficult for American competitors to replicate its precise personalized recommendation capabilities. Meanwhile, DJI is the world's leading drone manufacturer, controlling over 70% of the global market share. And so far, no American competitor has emerged to match them. DJI's drones not only deliver outstanding performance, but are also more affordable and technologically advanced, far surpassing any product from Silicon Valley. Meanwhile, BYD has rapidly risen in the electric vehicle sector and is now capable of challenging Tesla's market dominance. Griven believes that this situation will continue. China has already made artificial intelligence a national priority, accelerating its transformation from traditional industrial manufacturing to cutting-edge technology. The innovation models in the United States and Europe have followed traditional paths, relying on university research, patent systems, and venture capital funds. In contrast, China's model emphasizes large-scale, application-driven, and institution-driven innovation. China not only leads the world in the number of published AI research papers, but more importantly, its real advantage lies in rapidly applying AI across various industries such as e-commerce, finance, logistics, and manufacturing, creating economic value at an astonishing pace. American startups often need several years to raise funds and perfect their product prototypes before they can enter the market. The American innovation model focuses on theoretical breakthroughs. The Chinese model, on the other hand, centers on commercialization and large-scale application. Jerry once said that in the valleys of the United States, startups grow, but in China, it's global giants that rise. He believes that Washington should have recognized the essence of China's progress, which is the deliberate effort to master core technologies. But in reality, it's quite the opposite. Washington still regards China's progress as a threat to U.S. national security. This defensive stance can only lead to passive and negative responses, rather than strategic and proactive planning. As a result, the U.S. is missing out on the opportunity to lead the development of new-era technologies. Gary once said the real issue isn't how China managed to catch up, but why the U.S. failed to see it coming. If the U.S. can't find the answer, then it will be China that sets the trends defining the future of technology. And by then, the U.S. will be left with no choice but to try to catch up. He said that 10 years from now, when people look back, they'll realize just how far-fetched it was for the US government to try to limit the fast computing capabilities of 150 countries. The shockwaves brought by China's recent technological innovation and development are far from over for the Western world. A wave of reflection is still spreading among the media and industry insiders. The viewpoint expressed in this article by Switzerland's mainstream media Neue Zürcher Zeitung is not alone. CNBC in the United States shares a similar perspective. CNBC once published an article stating that in the AI chip trade war between the US and China, the US must never make such a grave mistake again. He said that although the US government has been tightening chip export restrictions in recent years in an attempt to curb China's development in artificial intelligence, the success of DeepSeek and deep learning demonstrates that simply blocking competition can hardly keep pace with innovation. Some U.S. industry insiders have remarked that the U.S. government is trying to build a centrally planned global computing economy, aiming to control global computing power. But this idea from the U.S. is not only unrealistic, it's also likely to backfire, potentially giving rise to a system that excludes the American AI ecosystem, a system that would be led by China. The U.S. restrictions are not an effective way to win the competition with China. The U.S. should focus on developing better AI products, rather than wasting energy trying to block the progress of its competitors. After reading these articles, we can sum it up like this. First, while some U.S. lawmakers think of China as a nation of copycats, American car manufacturers are actually copying China. Ford CEO Jim Farley said that people haven't realized China possesses the intellectual property that the U.S. needs. Ford is taking apart Chinese cars and learning from China. Second, Switzerland's Neue Zürcher Zeitung believes that Washington should have acknowledged the real substance of China's progress, which is the deliberate mastery of core technologies. But instead, Washington is doing the opposite, still viewing China's progress as a threat to U.S. national security, which in turn actually hinders America's own advancement. Third, the truth is, if it weren't for the United States, China wouldn't have realized it could become this strong.